I am speaking with.
Scott Guthrie.
Hey, Scott. You are well known for, well, being on the team that built ASP.NET, and the tools for ASP.NET are fantastic. Everyone loves them. Here's my big question, though: where are the tools for for the cloud now, and Azure, and when are they going to reach the level of what you got for ASP.NET?
Well, one of the things that we're trying to do is with Windows Azure is make Visual Studio the kind of ultimate IDE for building cloud-based solutions. And you're going to see the tooling support inside Visual Studio get richer and richer for Windows Azure, and a bunch of really kind of great improvements coming out as part of that.
I mean, let's say that the tools for ASP.NET are a 10. Where do you think Azure's tools are, and what is it they can do and can't do now that you want them to do?
Well, the interesting thing, I mean, one of the things that's worth keeping in mind when you think about building for the cloud is your ability to reuse your existing developer knowledge and some of your existing tooling environments for it. And so if you're, for example, building a Windows Azure web-based application, the good news is you can use all of those ASP.NET tooling capabilities that you already are familiar with. So the ones that you think are a 10, the good news is you can build your front end for your cloud-based application using those. And they're the same tools. Where I think we're still kind of building out support is going to be, for some of the more new scenarios, whether it's data partitioning or data sharding, whether it's kind of how do you design and think about multi-tier and look at kind of end-to-end diagnostics. Some of those things we have decent support for. Some of those things we don't really have any support for. And you're going to see us kind of over the next couple of months and years build out those types of capabilities as well. And the beauty is you're going to be able to take your existing tools, whether it's ASP.NET or whether it's with Web API or whether it's with other .NET technologies, and be able to couple them with some of these other new capabilities that are specific for distributed cloud solutions. And it's really the combination of that I think is going to be pretty special.
We were talking earlier, and I was asking, do you consider Rackspace and Amazon partners or competitors with Azure? Is that maybe the thing that people don't get about Azure? What's probably the greatest thing people just don't get about Azure right now?
Well, I mean, I think one of the things we're trying to do with Azure is really kind of be a flexible environment you can run anything in. And so, I think one difference of Azure historically has been its focus more on the platform as a service aspect, where you kind of build applications and deploy them into the cloud. And that's something that we kind of helped pioneer with Azure. And it's one of the kind of unique, special things about Azure in that it gives you a lot of productivity and a lot of power by doing that. One of the things we've done in the last sort of 6 months, though, is also introduce support for infrastructure as a service, which is more similar to, say, the Rackspace or the Amazon-based model, where you can host virtual machines in the cloud and run any workloads you want in that. And so with Azure now, you can do that for both Windows and Linux. And, I think what makes Azure unique is the fact that you can do both platform as a service and infrastructure as a service together. And so you could have your backend be, NoSQL-based solution running on Windows or Linux, and you have your front end be an ASP.NET solution running and using our platform as a service model, or vice versa. And that ability to use the best of infrastructure as a service and the best of platform as a service together, and the ability to use the best of the Microsoft ecosystem and the best of the open source ecosystem together, I think is pretty unique. And I think it's something that as developers look at Azure, they're increasingly realizing, wow, there's a lot of power and flexibility that provides. And it really gives you ultimate options and ultimate extensibility, and also a really productive, really manageable experience out of the box.
Actually, per that last comment you made, just one last question. Why did you make ASP.NET open?
Well, I think one of the things that we're trying to do, as part of the Azure and part of our overall server effort is to be far more open than we have been in the past. And so we've embraced a lot of open source technologies, whether it's jQuery, which we now distribute as part of Visual Studio and part of our ASP.NET projects, whether it's with other technologies, whether it's Modernizer or whether it's with NuGet or other technologies that we've ended up distributing or popularizing under open source licenses. And as part of that, one of the things that we've done over the last sort of 9 months is open source the Windows Azure SDKs, which are now hosted on GitHub under an Apache 2 license. And then earlier this spring, we open sourced ASP.NET MVC and Web API and Razor, and host them now on Codeplex under an Apache 2 license as well. And this summer we open sourced the Entity Framework. And I think you'll see us do more open sourcing like that in the future. And they're still backed by the same product teams that have always been developing them. And they still have the same Microsoft support, and we still distribute them the same way. But it does mean that customers can look at the source at a far deeper level than they used to historically be able to. They can monitor every check-in we do, and they can ask questions as we immediately check in, which gives us a much tighter feedback loop from the people that are using the product. And it also means that if someone wants to, they can fork it and fix their own bugs, or they can submit their own features back to us or their own bug fixes back to us, and we can now consider it. So it gives us a lot of flexibility, and I think just doing that open model is something that I think makes hopefully the product a lot better.
Awesome, Scott. Thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thanks for having me.